There is no perfectly adapted predators in the lungs of the earth, a creature that has dominated its river basin for millions of years. Sometimes abandoned everything evolution thought it and does something it was never thought to do. In the slippery forests of the Orellana province in Ecuador, a green anaconda arise from the water at dusk, not hunting, starving. For nearly 6 months, the water levels had been dropping. The prey species had migrated deeper into the forest. The anaconda's hunting grounds had vanished beneath retreat of floodwaters. So the anaconda did something that revoked every rule of its species. It climbed into the trees, not to hunt, to escape starvation. And in that moment of desperation, the rules that had kept it alive for millions of years began to unveil itself. If you are a little bit confused, wait, because what happened next to this anaconda reveals something shocking about survival itself. This is not a story about predator intelligence or strategic hunting. This is a story about desperation, about a predator pushed so far from its historical rules that it begins to break down. And if you understand what triggers this breakdown, you'll understand why the natural world is far more dangerous than we ever realized. In a few moments, this predators will show you their absolute breaking point. The green anaconda is the apex predator of the river basin Tanishan. It is the largest snake species on this planet, reaching lengths of over 20 feet, weighing over 600 pounds, capable of crushing prey as large as a monkey or a cheetah. It is a perfect ambush predator, built by millions of years of evolution to dominate its watery biome. And it follows instructions, fact, evolutionary rules that have never changed. It hunts in the water. It hunts at daytime and dawn. It hunts prey sized specifically to its body diameter. It rests after a kill, sometimes for 4 days. It avoids terrestrial hunting. It avoids risk. These rules are not preference. They are codes. They are survival. But what happens when following these codes means starvation? When the biome collapses? When prey disappears? When the anaconda faces a choice between breaking its rules or dying? If you pay attention to this video, you will understand the fearful nature, their activities, and existential trigger that causes predators to abandon millions of years of evolutionary code and attempt things that should mean obituary. And you will realize that when a predator breaks its own rules, it is not being clever, it is dying. The third documented case came from the River Basin Research Institute in 2023. Researchers studying green anacondas during a severe drought found something very challenging. An adult female anaconda, approximately 16 feet long, in wonderful condition, had been observed hunting in the banquet. Not occasionally, repeatedly, over a period of weeks. This should not happen. Green anacondas are aquatic predators. They do not climb. They do not hunt in trees. Their body structure, their vision, their entire sensory apparatus is built for water-based ambush hunting. Yet this anaconda was doing exactly that. The research team documented 6 separate hunting attempts in the canopy. The snake was attempting to catch birds, 4-dwelling rats, and small primates, prey that would never be part of a healthy anaconda's diet. All 5 hunting attempts failed. The anaconda was expending enormous energy trying to do something it had never evolved to do, and failing at every attempt. Then came the behavioral documentation from the Peneda Gerês National Park in Portugal. During a period of severe water level fluctuation, multiple green anacondas were observed abandoning their primary hunting grounds entirely. Instead of waiting in the water for prey to come to them, they were actively pursuing terrestrial prey, moving through the forest floor, attacking animals much larger than their normal prey size. One green anaconda was documented attacking a howler monkey, an animal weighing nearly 21 pounds, far too large for a snake to devour. The attack was unsuccessful and appeared to end in the anaconda's injury. Another anaconda was found dead in the forest banquet, apparently from a fall while attempting to hunt. The pattern was unmistakable. When the ecosystem changed, when water disappeared, when prey became scarce, the anacondas were changing their own rules. Not strategically, desperately. See what the research revealed about predator desperation. Every apex predator has a hungry threshold, a point beyond which the body begins to consume itself. For a green anaconda, this threshold arrives surprisingly quickly, sometimes within 3 to 4 months of unsuccessful hunting. When an anaconda reaches this point, something fundamental begins to happen in its brain. The biology systems that govern normal behavior, the predatory motor sequence, the prey size selectivity, the energy efficiency calculations, begin to break down. Not because the anaconda wants to break down, but because the brain is literally shutting down non-essential systems to preserve core survival functions. Dr. Pablo Morpis, who has studied anaconda behavior in the river basin for over 15 years, documented that starving anacondas display what he calls clingy spiral, a progressive breakdown of behavioral rules. First stage, the anaconda expands its prey size parameters. It attempts to hunt prey slightly larger than normal. Second stage, it abandons its preferred hunting time. It hunts at unusual hours, in unusual places, with less stealth and more aggression. Third stage, it abandons its hunting location entirely. The aquatic predator climbs. The ambush hunter becomes an active pursuer. Fourth stage, the final stage, the anaconda loses discrimination entirely. It attacks anything it encounters, regardless of prey type, size, or likelihood of success. This is survival breaking down. It's not intelligence breaking down. What happens in the anaconda's body during starvation is a cascade of hormonal changes, adrenaline dysregulation, metabolic acceleration, the suppression of dopamine and serotonin systems that normally govern self-preservation and risk assessment. The anaconda becomes, essentially, a machine driven by a single imperative: feed or die. And when that choice arrives, evolution's carefully designed rules mean nothing. An anaconda will attempt things it was never built for, hunt prey it cannot consume, take risks that guarantee failure, expend energy it doesn't have on pursuits that have no possibility of success, because the alternative, waiting in the water for prey that never comes, is simply death by starvation. One anaconda doesn't choose desperation. 2 anacondas chooses desperation. Relax, here's my advice, and this is crucial. When a green anaconda reaches this breaking point and begins attacking things it would normally never hunt, does it attack larger prey to try to rebuild strength quickly, or does it retreat to wait for smaller prey that might be easier to catch? What's your instinct telling you? Which choice do you think increases its survival chances? Drop your prediction in the comments, because what actually happens next is the complete opposite of what logic would suggest, and it's far more terrifying. This is where the revelation becomes something genuinely devastating. Because when we understand that predators break their rules not out of strategy, but out of desperation, it changes everything about how we interpret survival in nature. The anaconda doesn't attack larger prey because it's being strategic. It attacks larger prey because desperation has broken its size assessment systems. The starving anaconda is no longer calculating risk. It is simply attacking everything. Dr. Pablo documented anacondas attacking animals they had zero chance of consuming. Anacondas attempting to kill animals 4 times their body diameter, 4 times their body weight. The attempts were catastrophic. The anacondas were injured. Some died from their own attacks. But from the anaconda's perspective, from the neurological state of a starving predator, the calculation is simple. Attempt everything, die trying, or do nothing and die waiting. Most die waiting. A handful die trying. A smaller handful succeed purely by accident, capturing prey that happens to be small enough or weak enough to subdue. What this reveals is something profoundly unsettling about survival itself. We imagine nature as a perfectly balanced system, where predators hunt, prey survive or die, and everything continues in equilibrium. But when environmental stress arrives, when water disappears, when prey migrates, when the ecosystem collapses, that balance breaks down almost instantly. The predator that was a perfect apex predator yesterday becomes a desperate animal today. And desperation doesn't just change behavior, it destroys behavior. The anaconda climbing into the canopy isn't evolution in action, it's evolution in collapse. These predators are not intelligent enough to adapt to new hunting methods in the time frame they need. They are only intelligent enough to suffer. And that suffering drives them to break every rule, violate every instinct, and pursue survival strategies that have almost no chance of working. The natural world is beautiful. The natural world is fascinating. But the natural world is also ruthless. And when survival arrives, when desperation takes hold, that ruthlessness becomes absolute. The anaconda in the Napo province didn't survive the drought. Researchers found its remains 8 months later, wedged in a tree branch 15 feet above the forest floor. The snake had climbed. The snake had tried. The snake had died. Not because it was weak, because it was out of options. What we learned from studying desperate predators reveals a truth about nature that is uncomfortable to sit with. Survival is not about thriving. It is not about growth or reproduction or dominance. Survival is about not dying. It is about the moment-to-moment, brutal choice between attempting an impossible task or accepting death. The green anaconda that broke its thousands-of-year-old rules was not being clever. It was not being humorous. It was being desperate. And desperation is what every living thing experiences when the rules that kept it alive stop working. The anaconda doesn't want to climb. It climbs because water is gone. It doesn't want to attack prey it cannot eat. It attacks because hunger is eating it alive from the inside. Wildlife is dangerous because it must be. Wildlife is interesting because it is brilliant at surviving. But the reason predators live is to survive, not to die. And sometimes, when the world changes faster than evolution can follow. Now that I have explored this with you truly, you now understand something that most people spend their entire lives never knowing. Wildlife is dangerous and fascinating. But never forget, predators break their rules not out of intelligence or strategy. They break rules because they are dying. And when survival itself is at stake, there are no rules anymore.